We're live, chaps. How are we
We are
doing?
live. Yeah, good,
All
thank
good,
you.
Very good, thank you. I'm here in the NASA headquarters, as you can see behind me. You guys are obviously in the green screen studio, and
We are.
Sanjay's in his lovely premises at the moment, by the looks of it. So, how you
Indeed.
doing, Sanjay?
Yeah, all good, very well.
Good, chaps. You both good?
Good, mate.
Really good.
Very good.
Busy, but good.
On the subject of busy, obviously we're going to talk about the property market. That's what we're here to talk about. How are you guys both finding it with regards to the stamp duty holiday rush, which is 13 days incoming? How are you finding things at the moment with cases?
I'll let you start if you like.
A little bit carnage. It's a bit crazy out there. I described it to one of our sellers the other day in one of our group chats, like a scene from one of the Rambo films where solicitors are just going crazy. Everyone's just going crazy. There's just absolute carnage, and you're just in the middle going, "It's okay. It'll be okay. Everything's all right." So I'm pretty much like a swan at the moment, just going along gracefully, and everything's just kicking off underneath. So, but it's good. At the end of the day, everyone's doing what they need to be doing. You've just got to keep the pressure on in the right way, I suppose. But
Absolutely.
other than that, nice and busy.
I think communication has been a real learning curve for the property industry between different demographics of the industry, between solicitors, mortgage advisors, lenders to solicitors, obviously estate agents as well. Sanjay, I know you've had a really productive week and you've got a lot of your clients' cases over the line where they were worried. What's been the kind of recipe for that success that you found at the moment?
I mean, let's just say they've not been easy by any means. I just echoing what Dan and Neil said, like people are flapping is probably a good word at the moment. There's a lot of miscommunication going on, but at the same time, I think yes, I've got 4 exchanges through this week, so all of my clients that wanted to exchange have actually exchanged, which is great news. They're going to complete before the end of June, and I think it's just being persistent and just staying on top of what's going on, what's outstanding, what needs to be done, and then just implementing it straight away and don't hesitate. A lot of my clients, thank you to them, but they have just been on the ball, and I absolutely love that about them. And then just having that communication with the solicitors and mortgage lenders, mortgage advisors, even though inquiries sometimes are coming up like a last minute inquiry out of the blue, and you're just thinking, why has this not come up before? But at the end of the day, they happen. It does happen. It's just making sure you're actioning them there and then in order to get through to exchange.
And I think one of the things that I found with solicitors is they're under immense pressure. There's some good, there's some bad, there's some okay, but they're under immense pressure at the moment. So being a support to the solicitor rather than being a hindrance, I think they've found a lot of estate agents are calling them, pestering them, asking them for updates. There's no real reason to call a solicitor for an update. I think you have to call a solicitor and know where you were the last time you spoke and know what should have happened in that time frame and ask, did that inquiry get answered? As far as I understand, that contract is now sent back. The client wants to send deposit money so that you can offer a support, and then you can be the person to agree completion dates, or you can chase up the buyer or the owner, depending on who you need to. So it's kind of being their support, isn't it, really, at the moment? We're in it together at the end of the day. We've got Nikki here that's jumped on. She said, I'm trying to put pressure on a solicitor to get my sale through. Tips are welcome. The tips that I would personally give to you, Nikki, is you have to know where in the journey the transaction is, and you have to know what's outstanding. The pressure on the solicitor potentially is the right place to go. But if there's something outstanding with management packs, with documents, with mortgage, with inquiries, then it might be a case of, is the estate agent able to chase up the other party and do it faster? Because they're very motivated to get that done. If the solicitor's dragging their heels, then of course, email communication, being a bit of a pest, unfortunately, if you have got a slow one, pushes your file to the top of the pile. Neil, anything that you or Dan would add to that, guys?
No, I don't think so. I think, squeaky, obviously keep saying squeaky wheel gets the oil. So, if you are noisy enough, they will start to listen. But at the same time, as we were saying, this month, I think they've been under so much pressure. The best thing we can do is try to mediate in the middle and just communicate the best we can for everyone. If we do that, I think we'll be fine. So
yeah, I think just on that, and you were touching on the communication side of things as well. What we found really useful is the fact that we've got that WhatsApp instant communication with our clients. So if there's something that needs changed, we can kind of not bypass necessarily, but jump to it a little bit quicker and just give the sellers or give the buyers a heads up and say, just so you know, this is what you need to do now. And that's all we've been doing. Literally, we've been sat all day just going, right, you need to do this, you need to do that, jump on that, jump on this, and even just sending documents on WhatsApp, just really quickly, right, this is what's outstanding. And I've literally just had a message now, right, I've been onto the solicitors, I've done this. So it's just speed, really. It's just being able to handle it quicker. And like you said, we're just there to mediate and make sure it's handled and looked after in the right way.
I think the value in the estate agent, which people underestimate, because the industry does have the reputation it does, but in a transaction, we are the glue. We're the only people that can communicate with everyone. We've got the contact details for the mortgage advisor, for the buyer, the seller, the buyer solicitors, the seller solicitors, the top of the chain, the bottom of the chain. We're the only ones that do. So if you cut the agent off on communication, like some solicitors have done, unfortunately, it doesn't really help. Nikki said there that she's right at the start, nothing really outstanding. If it is a new transaction, I think people have to appreciate that there's some people that are playing with thousands of pounds worth of money with the stamp duty, so they probably are the bottom of the pile at the moment. And once the stamp duty holiday of this phase comes to an end at the end of the month, I think things will kick back off a little bit.
You're right there.
So let's move away from stamp duty. Let's talk property. Prices are going bananas. Sanjay, we've got 6 months of the year left. We're nearly half time in the year, which is crazy. But what do we think is going to happen in the property market over the next 6 months? Because I'm sure everyone wants to know. And if you've got a question about it, pop it in the comments. But what do you think is going to happen over the next 6 months?
I think you, like me, you're a stats guy. You like seeing reports. You like seeing what's coming out. You like seeing what trends are happening. I think just being on the ground, so to speak, like the prices we're still getting over asking price on some properties. We're still pricing them to sell ultimately because we don't want to overprice them. But even saying that, we're still getting like mad amounts of interest. And I was speaking to Neil about this earlier on one of his properties. It's like the amount of inquiries we're still getting on the 3 and 4 and 5 bedroom houses. It's crazy, which is only going to, I can see it's only going to stay the same at least for the next 3 months. I'll be interested to see what happens in the latter part of this year, but I think for the foreseeable, they're just going to keep steadily increasing. And if you've got a good house and there's still the short supply, then yeah, you're going to be getting offers, multiple offers even.
Dan, I know you talk to mortgage broker on your page all the time, Dom. I think you might even have a chat with him later on this evening. In terms of interest rates, we're seeing them drop a lot. Do you think that's a big part of the reason why there's so much more demand now than what there was 6 months ago? And with the shortage of properties coming to the market, is that going to mean that prices will inevitably just keep going up? Or do you think there's going to be a stop on any of that?
It's certainly an enabler, isn't it? It allows people to borrow potentially what they need or a little bit more, hence why people are a bit easier to go over the asking price maybe because they've got a bit more of a flexible budget. Tie that in with the fact there isn't a great deal of properties on the market. If you look within a certain area, 3-4 beds, by the time they come straight off, haven't they, and sold. So it's going to continue with that demand. I think I won't say that the property address, but there's one that Neil's listed, and he's genuinely had about 60-65 inquiries. So they're all good buyers in a position to buy for one house. So even if we had another 60 of that house come on, it's only going to serve those buyers, isn't it? So it shows you the demand out there. I think prices will certainly stay very strong and continue as they are at the moment, slightly rising up towards the end of the year. That's my thoughts on it.
I think on that one in particular, when I went out and went through all the pricing with the seller in particular, we set it a little bit higher than the neighbouring property that was the last one to sell. So we've priced it competitively, and it's still just gone absolutely bananas. So like Sanjay said, I think, and I've said it before, I think price is slowly going to just keep creeping up because you've got the people that were restricted or wanted to move before the end of stamp duty. That bubble has gone. That train has passed, and the people that have got a bit more time on their hands will actually dare to try a little bit higher and push a little bit harder and see what happens. So I think if you get it right, because unfortunately there's still a lot of people that are giving the wrong advice and sitting out of sync, not giving the right advice to get the right price. Yeah, I think if you get the price bang on, you'll still get market value or more. And with, I think, 35, 40 viewings on one house, I can only imagine there's going to be a few offers where people will have to make their best offer. So, yeah, prices are good still.
And with the way this is going, and when you look at some of the other countries and how they operate, and we as Avocado Property, we copy a little bit more down the lines of how the US work or the Australians work, because we're kind of bespoke and self-employed, and that's the way we operate. Do you think if this market demand continues and affordability stays as low as it is for people to spend more money, and there's less properties coming on, because stamp duty has inevitably brought forward 3 years worth of potential listings to the market, because everyone's gone, right, let's move now, let's not wait 2 years, because now we can afford to do it. What do we feel about COVID safe, obviously, but the element of open houses? I know you guys are doing appointment slot open houses in a fashion, but in the Australian style, they would stage the house, they would get the bread in the oven, they would have champagne on arrival for certain demographics of property, and they would set a guide price, and they would expect to get over asking price, and it would be right price, right buyer. And people would be expected to bring solicitors, mortgage in principle to those appointments, and almost when the door or the hammer goes down, the property gets sold to the right person. Do we see maybe the UK market could potentially move in that way? What do you think, Sanjay?
I mean, I'm going to speak personally from my personal experience. I quite like doing the half-hour appointments with buyers one-on-one. When we're talking about open houses, I mean, we used to do them, 5-6 years ago. Used to have like 2 hours where anyone can come in. You used to have 70 people through the door. Obviously, COVID, you've got to be a little bit more careful. But at the same time, I quite like just having that one-on-one with the buyer. And obviously, prior to that, I'm going to financially vet them. I'm going to make sure they can afford it. I'm not going to bring people around, especially like Dan and Neil were saying, if you're getting 60-odd inquiries, you're not going to have 60 people going around through the property, and half of them might not even be able to afford it. So it's like, you've got to do your work first. I think the way the Australians and the US do it depends on the property. Like, there's going to be a completely different demographic for a £3-4 million house as opposed to a 3-bedroom semi in the middle of Bracknell, for example. So it's just depending on that, I suppose. But like you're saying, we are bespoke, we can tailor it, and I do love that element of it.
With people that are out there looking at the moment, the 60 people, the 59 that might miss out, for example, and Mike, my business partner had the same issue of one in Bracknell recently. It's a good issue to have, but it's a lot of extra traction. What do you think would be advice that you would give to buyers? Because it is a bum fight to find the right property. Obviously, Neil, I know on all of our pages, we have obviously the hashtag Beat the Portal. So we have the opportunity for people to follow our page. It's a simple like button. It doesn't cost anything, but they can see exactly 72 hours, 3-4 days before it hits online on the portals. They can see it. But what other ideas and tips would you give people? Or do you think that's the best place for them to start at the moment on the Facebook pages?
Yeah, I think it's a great way of doing things, because we can instantly market a property while we're stood there. It's exactly what we do with hashtag Beat the Portals. If someone gives us the instruction to sell and market the property, we walk out the door, straight on the phone, straight on social media, and we do a live introduction to the property. It's a no-brainer. It's instant marketing straight away. You don't have to wait to do the photos or the video the days later. Obviously, we still do, but it creates that buzz for people. We've had it recently where people have called us while we've just finished the live, and they're like, right, we're on the phone, we're straight to it, which is awesome. And obviously, across all of the Avocado partners, we've got thousands and thousands of people watching us, waiting for the next property to pop up. So obviously, if it's the right one for them, they're going to see it days before we've taken photos and days before it's on Rightmove. So it's a no-brainer. Give it a like, give it a follow.
Yeah, I was going to mention as well, I've got a post going on later, but there's one we've sold before it's gone to the market through Beat the Portals. I think it's really key to also explain from a seller's point of view from that, because you might ask, okay, well, are they going to get the best result if it's not gone to the market? So I think it's a fair question to ask as well on the other side. But this Beat the Portal still created, more than one person's level of interest and more than one offer, and an offer that ended up being accepted over what was the asking price. So it's not as if you're getting it early and you're getting it cheap. You're still selling it for the right value, still getting a fair price for the seller, but also it gives people a bit of a head start.
Makes total sense. Yeah, I like it. Sanjay?
Just so you're saying about tips for buyers, like how can they get ahead sort of thing. Yeah, obviously the social media aspect's one of it, but I'm still having conversations today with some buyers who haven't got finances in place, and they're going out and also just narrowing down the radius of their search. Had one buyer unfortunately called me up and said he's looking sort of 50 mile radius, and I was like, and I said, have you got your finances in place? He was like, well, I've spoken to someone. I was like, you really need to drill down for you to get right at the top of that list to get the property you want. And do you know what? I don't blame them for that. I think it's just the point. If you come into a market like this, and especially for a first-time buyer, you've never bought before, you need that education. And after the 15-minute conversation I had with them, so appreciative. Do you know what? Within 24 hours, had a mortgage in principle, knew exactly what they were after, drilled down on the area, drilled down the criteria, come back to me, and then, showing around properties. But I just think just be ready. Just come equipped. Be that person that's going to be right at the top of that list regardless, and make yourself known. It's similar to what we were talking about with the transactions and solicitors. So whoever shouts the loudest sometimes. I think in this market, it's a similar sort of thing for buyers.
Yeah, 100%.
Massively. Yeah, massively agree. I think it's actually really important to talk about narrowing down, because a lot of people don't understand how estate agents think and what signals they're looking for. But, typically from our perspective, if we do have a buyer that registered that is looking in a 50-mile radius, we wouldn't probably prioritize those as much as we would do if someone called us and said, I'm looking for these 9 roads in this area, because they know what they want. They're a more established buyer. They're a more quality buyer in the eyes of an estate agent. Rightly or wrongly, that's just the way all agents think. And I think knowing your local market, knowing the school catchment you want to be near, knowing the type of property that you want, knowing whether you want to do work or not do work, or you need the downstairs conservatory or you don't, all of these little things really does make a big difference for us when we go out to see what we're going to see, I would say.
Do you know what? Go on.
Oh, sorry, Sanjay, go on.
Joe, one thing I was just going to mention, the great thing, and I've had feedback on this, is that the amount of information we put out as avocado partners with our, SPRIF reports at schools, all of this stuff, they absolutely love, because they can almost make an informed decision before they've come round to the property. And I've had buyers tell me that, multiple buyers tell me that. And I love that, because if I was a buyer, I'd be like, right, how much information? And you know what? The internet's a big thing at the moment. You can find out a lot about the property you're going to have a look at, not just the photos and floor plan online.
Dan, were you going to mention something?
I was going to say it's along the same lines, but we are finding we're getting multiple offers on a lot of properties. You mentioned about the way estate agents think. We don't choose who accepts or whose offer is accepted. It's the seller, of course. But we have to present that information and how that's presented to us. And if you've got 10 buyers and 4 of them have come forward and gone, mortgage in principle there, timescales we're looking to move to is there, solicitors we're prepared for, we can use these, this is our stuff, to somebody who goes, I haven't quite got that in place yet, I need to scratch around for this. Even if it's a slightly higher offer, your levels of potential trust with that person isn't as high as a person who's keener, right? Yeah. And that's going to be portrayed in the offer, the way it's put forward to the seller when they make a decision. So just going back to buyers, if you've got everything, you're going to give yourself a much better chance of trying to secure the home you want. It's just a no-brainer.
For the owners out there, then, there's a lot of owners that I often talk to, especially when you get to certain values within the market, that they don't feel 100% comfortable putting their property on the portals, on Rightmove and on Zoopla. They don't want to be the client that's on and off, but they would sell at a certain price. Now, we've done a lot of off-market deals. You guys have done one this week. It hasn't hit the internet in terms of it hasn't gone on Rightmove. It hasn't gone on Zoopla. At one point earlier on in the year, I know mine and Mike's pipeline, a quarter of it was off-market transactions, as many as that. And it's a sizable, amount of properties that were under offer. Because people do sometimes want the privacy element of it. And there's ways that obviously we can operate with social media and things like that, where we can actually draw in that. So, Dan, for a seller that's out there that's thinking, do you know what, I would like to move, but if I get X for it, I'll probably do it. But I don't really want to slap it all over the portals. I don't want it all over Rightmove. I don't want hordes of viewings coming through every single evening when the kids are having dinner. That's something that really you want to be talking to those people now, because of how the market is. There's a lot we can do for them now and potentially get maximum price.
100%. There's going to be buyers that register with us are very good buyers that miss out on properties by the skin of their teeth, aren't there? That we're going to be speaking to and keep close to. So first of all, there people will know that are looking for a certain property. We can pick up the phone to that particular seller and tell them about it straight away. I think the beat the portal scene, going back to that, I don't want to keep going over on it, but when we do that, you don't have to put exactly everything about the house. It's only a sneak preview. It's still very private for that particular seller, but actually it gives a wide audience opportunity to go, there's something that could be of interest. And then you can have those conversations and draw them out. There's absolutely a lot of ways that we can sort of pick that needle out the haystack for somebody, more so than somebody sort of going through the whole of the market to find something. And that would benefit that seller. And if it's a certain price you want to get, you go for it, don't you? Ultimately, you're under if you don't get it, you're under no risk. But if you get it, then
I think one thing that I'll point out on, and I always point out on appointments, is the fact that it's us that go out and meet the property owner, and it's also us that go out and meet the buyers that we're dealing with, which I think is a massive USP, because 95 to 99% of other businesses or agencies will have one person go out and list the house, meet the seller, and then someone else will deal with the buyers. So you never actually know who's looking for what type of house. Whereas now, I love what we're doing now, because we go out, we meet the buyer, get an understanding of what they're after, and like you said, narrow down the search, figure out what you want, and we'll know how serious you are as a buyer. And if we get something, we can go, right. So
we're doing all the time, aren't we? We're just I've got a buyer for this deal, but get them over. As
soon as we get an instruction, because we're both chatting to each other all the time, we go, so-and-so will look at that. I'll get them over. Here's the number. And so it's a much better, slicker process in terms of how we operate. But from a seller's point of view, you want to trust that agent to be looking after you, not just to go, if they go to the market, they go to the market, so be it. I personally think, depends, every seller's circumstances are different, and that's why us being bespoke is awesome. But I personally think if you're going out there, you're putting it on the market, go full steam ahead, like get the board out. You never know who might see it. It might be the right buyer, it might be the right person, it might create that urgency. You just don't know. But we can deal with however we need to deal with it.
I think the key thing is local experience and listening. I think, there's 50 years worth of agency experience in the areas that we're working. It's not like we've been here, there and everywhere. Between us, we live in the areas that we're working in. Typically, we've worked in there for a long time. So we've got contacts going back years and years and years. And I think because we own the businesses, it means that much more to us, that we're going to listen to people, use the logic. We're not trying to sell to anyone. And all we're going to try and do is marry up the contacts, which effectively is the job of the agent. And we don't need Rightmove and Zoopla to do that. So if people want that privacy, we can do it that way. So I think it's a good place to talk. Just putting everyone on the spot then. And thanks to everyone that's commenting, by the way. I just flicked through a few hellos and, James Dawson there saying fantastic live. If you've got questions, you're watching this after we've gone live, just fire them in the comments. We'll answer them. We're live on all three of our pages. So, we're happy to and keep comments and keep sharing it. If you know people that are in the property game at the moment or thinking of moving in the next month, tag them in the comments so that they can watch it. There's some help in there, I'm sure, somewhere. Putting people on the spot, next 6 months. What do we think people are going to be looking for rather than what prices are going to do? I think we're all in agreement they're going to go up. But what do we think people are going to be looking for? We've now seen almost, getting to a year and a half of the pandemic. So trends and the way people work and live has changed. But what do we think people are really looking for? And it might be hyper-local in your markets, but what's the kind of the go-to top 3 properties, for example, in your area? Sanjay, going from Winkfield across to Ascot, Sunningdale, Sunninghill, what kind of things are people really after in those locations?
I mean, just speaking to buyers, and also just a quick stat for you. When Zoopla put out their last report, they said the top 3 keywords for buyers that are searching within the last 3 months is garden, garage, and parking. When I speak to buyers, especially in the Ascot area, it's 4-bedroom detached homes. Everyone wants to level up from their 2 or 3 bedroom Victorian cottage that they've got in Ascot because there's an abundance of them, and they just want more space, for the kids. They want an extra workspace. Study's still a big thing. Even though people are starting to go back to work, I'm still finding people want an outside office or space to build an outside office. So 4-bedroom detached homes with, garage, driveway parking, and just more space. That's still at the top of my list for buyers, especially in the Ascot area.
I spoke to one of my clients today, actually, that's going to be coming back on the market in the next couple of months. And he said to me, I'm potentially going to insulate, put some Velux windows in and put some power in the big kind of really nice shed that he's got at the back of the garden to turn it into a home office. He said, is it worth doing that? I said, how much is it going to cost you? He said, 800 quid. I said, do it in a heartbeat. For 800 quid, you've just built a self-contained office in the back of your garden. It's absolute gold dust at the moment. What are you guys finding, Dan, Neil? What kind of are the go-tos that people are looking for at the moment in your area?
You know, similar things to Sanjay, but I think across all the size of the bedrooms, wouldn't you say? Because 2-bed and 3-bed properties are still really popular. We've got some really good sized 2-beds, which should be as big as a 3-bed, because they've got that space to work from home. They're very, very popular. And potential. If anything's got potential, where I think a lot of people are thinking ahead, going, I don't want to move again like I am right now because of what it's been like in the next 5 years. I want to buy something where I can extend and stay there for 10, 15 years. And if anything's got potential to go over a garage or a big garden, anything like that, they are absolutely going incredibly quickly and for more money than we'd expect, because I think people don't want to move as regularly as they have been, maybe.
I think people are pushing themselves as well, because obviously everyone always tries to push themselves when they're buying. But I think more so now, like Dan said, people are going, right, I don't want to have to do this again, so I'm going to push myself to the absolute limit. I'd say for us, like 4-bed detached, they absolutely still fly out the door. We cover a couple of different areas, and each area you put a 4-bed detached and they just get snapped up super quick. And the 3-bed, it's a 3-bed semi that we've got launched recently, and it has got potential to extend. Gone absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, that'll be a 4-bed in no time with a bigger study. It's got a big garden. Because of that, people are going, I can buy this now and extend it, stay there for 15 years rather than buying it and moving in 5-6 years. Yeah. With the cost, what will probably be stamp duty again, won't it? Of course, that won't ever go anywhere really, and things like that. So,
well, that's a different topic of convo that I'm sure we're going to have at some point, is pushing out some sort of stamp duty reform, but we'll get to that in September. In terms of what you were saying about people stretching themselves, goes back to the interest rates, how cheap it is. That's the reason why people don't buy a property because of the price it's on the market for. They buy a property because of what they can afford monthly on the costs. And I think it's really important to understand that when people get frustrated and grumble on the prices, it's about affordability. And that's what it really does come down to in the thick of it. Just before we wrap up, because I know Sanjay's got an appointment, mentioned about looking into trends. One of the most searched sentences at the moment in Google with regards to property is, I want to buy a second property. Now, we were talking about interest rates being low. We're talking about potential garages, gardens, these types of things. I think we saw at the back end of last year a first and second time sellers market. Stamp duty triggered people that were sold for the first time go into the market, or maybe the second. The first half of this year has been a first time buyer dominant market, with interest rates being low and also loan to values being the high options that you've got at 90%, 95%. What's your thoughts on second time buyers at the moment? Are we seeing buy to let investors starting to look, because there's no money in savings and property's booming, it's cheap, you can get 75% loan to value, 25% deposit buy to let at the moment for 1.54. That's unbelievably cheap. Rent is through the roof, so it's easy to secure a tenant, no void periods. Do you expect to see that being a trigger in the market over the coming couple of months? Sanjay, you've worked sales and lettings throughout your whole career. What's your thoughts?
It's an interesting one, because you've got a property market which the prices are so high at the moment. So you think, investors, why would you invest? Why would you invest? But like you just said, like the mortgage rates for investors and buy to let is so low. So when I'm having conversations with investors, they're like, looking at it from a business perspective, looking at it from a numbers perspective, not so much just doing it for the sake of doing it. Like, they are being quite ruthless with it, because they're like, well, do you know what? If I don't snap this up now, who knows what's going to happen to the mortgage rates in the next couple of years, and I can release equity from this other property I've got in order to purchase this and get even cheaper rates than I've currently got. So it's like, why would you not? And recently I've seen the apartment market is starting to pick up. Like it was tough for the early part of this year, but I'm seeing more. I've got more and more under offer at the moment than I have been probably the whole part of this year. which is really positive. So yeah, it's definitely an increase in that.
You guys have sold a lot to buy-to-let investors recently. Do you think in terms of that end of the market, even though prices are high, it comes back to what's affordable and what makes money? And investors are shrewd. If the rents are going up and the rates are going down, they make more money in that. People have got more money to spend, I think, at the moment. You can't really go on holiday. You can't, spend all the money that you would have been spending going out and doing little trips to London, this, that, and the other. So people have just got more money. I know I spoke to my mum and my stepdad on the weekend, and they just said, well, we've not been going away. They're retired. They've saved tens of thousands of pounds over the last 12 months, from not being able to do that. You're seeing a lot more buy-to-let register buyers, I think, guys. Is that what you're finding?
Yeah, I'd agree. We've got a few that are about to exchange to investment buyers who are looking to get tenants in there straight away, and that'll be absolutely fine. So those being apartments. So touching on what Sanjay said, that certainly helped. And I do think they are definitely coming back out. And the other thing I'd say is that a lot of the properties we list around those 4 beds, those sort of 550, 600, 700,000, people are doing everything they can to hold on to their current home as well. So similar aspect, but they want to, they're willing to pay that extra surcharge on the stamp to hold on to their current home and so forth, because they're looking at their future, aren't they, as sort of an investment plan, a safety net. And because the options are there, it makes sense for people to do it. So we're getting a lot more nothing to sell buyers in that respect, because they're able to fund it off their current home.
Yeah, 100%. Sanjay?
Do you know what? Actually, it just reminded me, I had a conversation with an investor the other day, and they've recently just had a baby. And the conversation he had with me was like, I want to find an investment property for my new child. And that's not the first time I've heard someone say that in the last year, because of the baby boom that everyone's been having the last year. So I thought that was quite an interesting conversation to have, because he wasn't thinking about that, buying a second property, but all of a sudden now he's like, well, do you know what? Yeah, that'd be great if I could buy something now, and in 20 years time, who knows? So yeah, find that quite interesting.
It's interesting. That topic is interesting. There's the avocado property market update, the mid-June update is now on the website. You'll find it in the blogs. So if you go to the website, press about, hit blogs, you'll see a full kind of 2.5 page update. One of the comments within that is related to the baby boom, and it will be interesting to see these lockdown babies that are getting popped out now. Pop is probably the wrong word. Sorry to the ladies out there. All the births that are coming through, which is amazing. Obviously, recently it was the same for myself 5 weeks ago, but it's going to have an impact in people, and I think we'll see in 2 years' time a lot of those transitions start to happen, where people need more space. Babies, they start to think about schools. So there might be a big supply of properties coming to the market in the next kind of 18 months, 12 months, 24 months because of that reason as well. So check out that blog. There's lots of information. I'm going to just sum up this video. One word that describes the UK property market at the moment, massively putting everyone on the spot. I haven't even thought of mine yet, but Dan's looking confused, so I'm going to go to Neil first to just give him a moment to think about it. One word, Neil, that describes the market.
Madness.
Sanjay?
I knew you were going to say that. I was going to say the same. I would say feisty.
Feisty, I like it.
I'm just going to say incredible.
It is incredible.
Incredible. I like it. I was going to say bananas. So, yeah, there's 4 keywords there.
I was going to say Rambo from my analogy earlier, but I don't know if people watching it later will get it.
And when I asked Dan earlier about the market, he told me all about the fruit and veg. So we were on completely different pages. So bananas is not the actual market. Guys, I've loved this video. We've talked for 34 minutes. Sanjay's got an appointment. If anyone's got questions, hit us on the comments below, and I'm sure we'll jump on again soon.
Perfect.
Appreciate it, guys.
Cheers, mate.
All right. See you.
See you
Have
later.
a good evening.
See you.